Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Life in HD, where we invite special guests to come in and chat with us about human design in real life. And if you're new to this channel, I'm your host, Crystal Alfarero. I'm a human design guide and founder of the Human Design Academy. And today we're going to be talking about life as a self-projected projector and projector entrepreneurship with our special guest, Nicole Towers, who's, of course, a 1-3 self-projected projector and also a human design guide and business mentor. Welcome, Nicole. How are you?
Thanks so much for having me, Crystal. I'm great, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on the show today. I've loved, listening to all of your videos and, following your YouTube channel. So yeah, it's amazing to be here. And of course, you are my mentor as well. So I think for me, it's been amazing to be guided by another projector, because you're the first person that I've ever been guided by before. Everyone else has been manifesting generators or generators. So it's lovely. And our charts are actually very similar. So there's a lot of resonance there between ours. So yeah.
So as you'll see when we pull up Nicole's chart, Nicole's also a 1-3, and we also share the same incarnation cross. But Nicole's a Pisces baby. Pisces, right? March?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. And so I guess for everyone
Sagittarius?
else. Yes.
Is it? Sagittarius,
yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, your conscious sun is in
63.
Oh yeah, we're like inverse.
So ours is sort of switched. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And I guess for everyone else that is listening in today, Nicole, could you share a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Nicole Towers, and I'm a human design guide and human design reader, and also a business mentor. And the areas I really love to focus on is really infusing business with human design, really through the lens of human design. So that's sort of my fascination zone. And that's where I really dive deep into learning. And as a projector, I love, diving into the areas that really interest me. So that's been really interesting for me, particularly because I started my business in a way that really wasn't aligned with my human design. So that's why I really love to help and guide people to really get back on track. And even if they have, a successful business, quite often it's not really they haven't created it in a sustainable way. So forever, it's not going to really sustain that aligns with their design, because, their nervous system is shot, or they're, feeling stressed, and it sort of built, the foundations are maybe shaky. So we sort of go back and redesign it from that place. And then also, of course, if you're a new entrepreneur, it's really building that business from the start in that way that really aligns with their design. So, it sets them up for a lot more success and, satisfaction and peace, and all of those beautiful, signature themes for each of the designs. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, I'm going to be kind of interrogating you a little bit more about that later, because I know we have a lot of people that want to learn how to use human design in their business, and especially projector entrepreneurs. You and I have very similar journeys in terms of how we stumbled across human design. So could you share a little bit about your journey with how you found human design and kind of how it transformed the way that you do business?
Yeah, well, the first time was when I was actually in a group program, and someone asked me my human design, and they were chatting about their human design types, and that kind of like triggered a curiousness. So straight away I looked into it and discovered mine. And like many people, you look at your chart and it sort of seems a bit overwhelming, and I wasn't really sure where to start. And this was a few years ago, there wasn't maybe as much information. So I kind of let it, had the chart there, but sort of didn't really know what to do with it. And then probably about a year later, it kept coming back. I kept like hearing it, and it was piquing my interest more and more. And I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but I was actually, drawn to you. We both had the same business coach as well. So I found out about you through that. And, there was a couple of things, but the first thing was I was going to book in a reading with you. And at that point, when I was about to book in, I noticed that you were doing, starting the first round of the academy. So I was like, oh, why don't I just learn it, being the 1-3, dive in and investigate and sort of learn everything there is, rather than just having a reading. So I did that before I had a reading. Like, it was probably a year after studying with you that I had my first reading, because after learning it, I didn't want to be influenced by anyone else's way of doing readings. So I wanted to find my own way and my own uniqueness. So I felt like by the time I had a reading, I really knew and felt confident in the way I delivered it and had a lot of success with the readings that I was doing. So that was sort of a different way that maybe other people might not have done in that way. Most people, I think, probably would have had a reading first and then,
we're
taken the steps,
1-3s.
but I went all in. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was also at this point in my business where I felt really, because I'd had my business for a little while by then, and I had really realized I'd set it up in a way that wasn't aligned with the Projector strategies. It was really aligned, and because my mentors had all been sacral beings, manifesting generators or generators, it was really not feeling great for me. So I had got to that point where I was thinking about studying human design with you, and I did really feel like, I don't know, I was really up in my head, and all these strategies that everyone was saying, I didn't even follow them because it just didn't feel aligned. But it was a lot of confusion and doubt, and all those sort of things were coming up in the early stages of my business because I was trying to create something, but there was no one showing me the way of a projector way, and I didn't even know that existed at the time. So it was like this huge affirmation and sort of that penny drop moment of really understanding my design and that I'm not built like that. And 70% of the population are sacral beings, so our society is really based on the energies and of that. So really creating a business now that aligns with my human design is quite different, and it's really about honoring our energy. I know that you know this as well. So it's really sort of tearing everything down and starting again, really, as for me as a projector, when I found out that
and
I could go on for ages in all
totally. When you first found out that you were a projector, did you resonate with being a projector? Were you disappointed? I know there's like a lot of us experience that initial like, I can't be a projector. Like, I resonate with being a manifesting generator. Like, for you, did you see yourself right away in that, or did it take more time for you to kind of ease into it and see it?
It was a big affirmation. I realized then that why I had always felt sort of burnt out and exhausted in a lot of jobs that I'd done. And I think back to, when I was probably about 21, and one of my first jobs I had, I was actually a beauty therapist at that time. I've had a lot of different jobs over the years. But that was one of the first jobs I had. And I remember sometimes working 12-hour days, doing facials, and like really being on my feet, but also communicating one-on-one with someone, almost like a therapist type of thing. And I was living in a shared house with a couple of friends at the time. And I'd say to them, I have to be on my own. As soon as I walked in the door, please don't talk to me. I said it in like a nice way, but I can't speak to anyone. I've got to go have a shower. I've got to go have some alone time. I'll come out when I'm ready. And I'd have about an hour and then I'd be fine. But it was almost like I was discharging the energy without actually ever knowing it. But that was sort of my way of like, I guess I wouldn't know now, but I guess I probably was working with generators over the years. And I felt like I was always working past my energetic capacity.
Yeah, I know. We have a little special guest. She just woke up this morning.
Hello.
Adriana, do you want to go sit on the couch for a bit? Yeah. When you started your business, like, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had? I know you mentioned that you were burnt out. There were some systems that were in place that didn't align to you, but what were some of the biggest challenges that you had before learning about human design?
Yeah, so I think before learning about human design, it was really me not really knowing, understanding my design now, but it was really not knowing when enough was enough, and really working past my energetic capacity a lot. So really trying to keep up with others. And I guess being around like my family are all sacred beings. My husband's a generator, my son's a manifesting generator, and my daughter's also a generator. So quite often it's, in my life is really trying to keep up. And sometimes when I just want to relax on the couch, their root center sort of energy gets me up and moving. And then they end up going to bed and I'm sort of up running around doing jobs and doing things because I'm so amped from their energy. So it's that kind of like really, I guess a lot of openness in my chart. So understanding that now makes me realize how I was really, affected and really feel other people's energy a lot, whether that's good or bad. So I really resonate with the undefined emotional solar plexus, because I can definitely walk into a room and amplify the energy and almost be the life of the party, but I can also go almost into a shell a little bit and not really communicate to my fullest expression
Yeah.
if the energy is really not great.
It's so true. I
You know?
feel the
Yeah.
exact same way. And it's good that at least, and especially you're talking about your old job and, needing to come home and needing to decompress. And I really like how you're able to communicate what it is that you need. Because sometimes, I remember feeling overwhelmed as a projector and not understanding why. And because I didn't understand why or what was happening, I wasn't able to communicate it. And I just felt like drained. I felt like antisocial, like there's something wrong with me, because sometimes I'd be very, very social. Like you said, sometimes you can amplify what's happening in the room and be the life of the party. And then other times you're just like, oh, like when I don't have energy, it's like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to do anything really. And I don't know why, or I didn't know why. But yeah, no, it's challenging, especially when you are surrounded by a lot of sacral beings sometimes, to get that chance to decompress. So like, do you find it difficult at times to get that space, or have you been able to, communicate with your family when you do need that time to be by yourself, to kind of get out all that energy from your system?
Yeah, I think I have got a lot better at it. It's probably, I think it's always going to be work in progress. It's sort of something that I always have to, bring awareness to when, it's shifted. But, even working from home, that really helps me sort of working my own energy. I really enjoy that. And I guess with the single definition as well, I'm able to, I don't have to be around others to be able to really get work done. And I probably work better in a way and study and like follow those fascination zones and get work done without others around. But I also love going to cafes when I need it, where I can sort of plug in and, pick up on, the energy of others. There's also planetary transits as well. Like right now I've got sacral definition. So I really do notice that. And I'm able to do sort of more task orientated things during that time. So I love tracking the transits.
Yeah. Oh, I know that's like a whole other topic that we should probably come back on and talk about transit sometime. But how about your parents? Do you know what their designs are? Are they also sacral beings? Or?
So my dad was a generator, and my mum, who I was really raised with a single parent of my mum, she's actually a splenic projector.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's probably why, our energies really matched a lot, growing up. So I didn't really feel that so much, until I was probably in the workforce. It was kind of very relaxed Zen kind of environment where we'd probably chill out a lot together on the couch and watch movies. And, I didn't really feel like, I sort of talked to other people who have got, manifesting generator parents, and they felt like they were always being dragged to places and that they had to keep moving and never really allowed to sort of rest or sleep in or things like that. Whereas we really did have that kind of chilled out vibe together. So looking back now, that probably really did align with my design.
Oh, that's really nice, because my daughter's a splenic projector as well. So I feel like we both have our lazy time together. But growing up, both of my parents are 5/1 emotional manifesting generators on the left angle cross of informing, right?
Okay.
I didn't know that until like later. Until recently, that they are like very similar in that way, but also very different in real life. But yeah, my dad used to, it was fun. Like my childhood was fun because he'd always bring us to different activities on the weekend, bring us to parties until like late at night. You know what I mean? And I didn't really realize that, I felt lazy almost, because when it came to me being a parent and me doing my own thing, it's almost like I held myself to their standard, but energetically I wasn't able to keep up with it. So questioned a lot of that before I knew about human design, but it made so much sense why, why I didn't have that same, like, I'm going to say like potency. I didn't have that same energy that my dad has. And actually, if you meet my mom, like she's also you would think she's a projector because she has a very like calm demeanor, but she still has a lot of energy to like, I think it channels out in supporting the people around her in a different way. But it's really interesting to see how, your parents really affect the way that you are able to ease into your design as well. And, what you said around the workplace being a huge influence in how we pick up certain work habits, right, in our business. And so what are some of the, I'm going to say like the major ways that you shifted your business before human design to align to your design as a projector and your energy as a projector?
Yeah. So how I've shifted it now in terms of, so I think the way I had set up my business before was I sort of fell into entrepreneurship and started a social media business just through word of mouth. And that built up to sort of within a few months having 8 businesses that I was doing the marketing and social media for, also like photo shoots and events, and it was really busy. And then I realized that, I'd created this business for the freedom and flexibility to spend time with my children. And I'd actually created this business that I was working more hours than I'd had before.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, reading my kids' books at bedtime like I'd wanted to, because that was the ultimate time to be posting and to be, replying back to, engagement and things like that for all of these companies that I was working for. So I was at that point of building an agency model. And then I think it was around that time that I really started diving into my design. And I think it was probably a year or so before I did the course with you. And that's really, I realized now that was really not aligned with my design. My nervous system was, shot. And it was just like, just like this. And it was always wanting to be free of pressure, which I realize now I've got an open root center, and it's definitely, deadlines and timelines don't make me feel great. They do make me feel stressed in a lot of ways. So I'd build a business that was on deadlines, basically. So understanding that, now I've created this business that just feels so aligned. And I've created, I do a lot of readings, but I always, schedule an hour in between the readings. So that's able to, relax and, really get into the zone for the next one. I'm able to have all of these rituals, which is, I guess, that, the gate 5 that we've got. So I like to, have certain like incense and things like that. And I love to have certain crystals that I pull out for the particular client that I'm doing it for. I do an oracle card pull. And it's these sort of systems that I have, I'm able to create, which I never would have had if I worked in a traditional job or
imagine
running on
pulling out your crystals in the office.
It's just, it's so cool. But in terms of practical ways, I've really set up a lot of more systems in place. So I don't always have to be on in my business. I don't always have to be, at the forefront and always be, creating. So I've got some beautiful, like, I guess, client journeys in place where people can find me and, binge on my content, whether that's on my podcast or whether that's in one of my opt-ins where they can learn about different aspects of human design or human design and business. And they're getting the emails in place and things like that. So I've set up these systems so I'm able to really lean into my design. And a big part of being a projector, I feel, a successful projector, is having that spaciousness, having spaciousness for creative ideas to drop in, having time to rest and lean into self-care, which if you're not going to show up in a magnetic way. If you're a projector who's built their business and has a business that's really based on generator strategies, then you're not going to show up in the most magnetic way, because you're going to be probably tired, burnt out, exhausted, bitter. So I find I don't have to show up maybe as often, but when I show up, sometimes maybe it is more potent, because that's when I do notice that when I show up, that's when I get a lot more bookings, a lot more coaching clients, when people are in my energy, or if they've listened to a podcast or a podcast I've been on, that sort of thing. So it is a lot to do with energy. So if you're not maintaining your energy, then you're probably not going to be attracting the most aligned clients to you. Do you resonate with that as well?
Absolutely. And I feel like we're linked today, because spaciousness was a word that I was just about to say. And that's exactly what I feel. It sounds weird, but like, it's exactly what I needed as a projector in order to be more productive, in order to be more fulfilled, in order to be, to, I guess, create the space for success as a projector as well, because that's when you have that spaciousness, that's when you are better able to tap into that creativity, to that intuitiveness. And, sometimes when you're slammed with work, it's like you lose that motivation, you lose that desire to continue in your business because you're just so drained. It's not that you don't love what you do, it's just that you don't have the energy for it. And, sometimes if I don't have that spaciousness, or, if it gets to a point in my business where things are really, really busy, it's like, that's my signpost. It's like, okay, I need to take a step back. I need to reprioritize things. Maybe, also in terms of creating spaciousness, so at some point, I don't know if you feel the same way, but with emails, it's like, there's so many like emails that come in, and it's like, you have to prioritize which ones you respond to. Otherwise you're just responding to emails like every single day, right? Or having systems in place so that, you can quickly and efficiently respond to them in a certain way. Right. But yeah, absolutely. Like spaciousness is so key. And what you said around, in order to show up as your magnetic self in terms of being a projector and standing strong in your energy, it's like you need to create that space, that permission to take a step back. And I think we were just talking about this before we got on the call, but like, when you have a lot of bookings in your schedule, sometimes it's like you need to sacrifice, quote unquote, sacrifice the bookings and like maybe take certain breaks in between. And then you find that like by doing that, it's not that you ever actually lose something, but sometimes it's like you have to put that kind of blind trust in the fact that taking the space is actually beneficial for you. And it's not until later that you see that benefit. I don't know. Is that, have you
absolutely.
gone through that period too? It's like kind of scaling back so that you can move forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I've talked to manifesting generators who might have 8 calls in a day, 8 coaching calls, and that feels really aligned. But for me, the thought of that is really stressful. So I'd rather have, 3, 4 maximum in a day and have the space in between, and also feel like I've got the space to be at my full potential when I'm giving a reading, when I'm showing up for the client. If I'm, burnt out and just going, oh, when's the next one? I'm not going to be showing up in the best way for them either. So it's both ways. It's for me to be out of integrity for my energy. And, it is about putting yourself first in some ways as well in terms of your energy, rather than, I'd rather, have that integrity in the reading rather than having all of that, the money coming in terms of being the best, being at my best. Yeah.
And it's scary sometimes because you feel like by taking on less work, somehow the income is going to stop coming in. That scarcity starts to turn on. And yeah, like, I mean, it's logically, it doesn't make sense to take on less, to do less. And so there's a lot of that mindset work. I don't even know if this is mindset work or whatever work you want to call it, but there's that perspective shift or that reframe that we have to make as projectors. And also that trust that we need in our business, in ourselves, that things are still coming in, and sometimes putting that evidence in front of you, whether it's tracking your finances, tracking your sales, and seeing what happens, doing a little mini test of, let's see what happens if I take 1 week off. And then maybe this is something that I spoke about with you or maybe someone else, but it's almost like if you're not used to taking a step back in your business and you're not used to trusting yourself, or you don't have that trust yet, it helps to do them in like little experiments, right? Especially as 1-3s. We're both those 1-3s. And I'm sure we kind of had that same approach as well, where it's like, okay, we'll see what happens if I take one week off, now 1 month off. And then have those systems also in the back to support us as well. And so I love how you have also really leveraged that email list, right? How game changing has that been for you in terms of having certain, I'm going to say like having those sequences in terms of emails and stuff in the background so you could take a step back? Is that something that gives you a lot of security as a projector?
Yeah, I do really love email in that way. And I do notice that I do get clients coming in through my emails as well as through my podcast now as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes even more so than, social media, because I'm allowed, I guess I'm able to really be my authentic self and that creative expression through copywriting and like writing, but also through the podcast. I really feel like as a projector, that's allowed me to, because I don't do much planning in terms of too much. I have a sketch and outline, but I really speak from the G center, my authentic truth. So I feel like that's a way that I'm really connecting with people, and people are, really resonating with, the message that's, I guess, meant to come up on the day, that's meant to be shared. And I love interviewing people as well. So yeah, that sort of goes hand in hand. But yeah, back to what you were saying. Yeah, I do sort of love that, the emails, and that sort of, it does provide some sort of security in some place in terms of being a projector in business, sort of setting up these beautiful automations in a way. And it's not just setting up the automations like I'm going to do, and I don't follow anyone else's strategy in terms of do this one next, do that one next, sort of all these like email sequences that you're supposed to do. I really like tap into the creativity. So I'll, whether it's, I might, have some herbal tea and I'll put a candle on, and I'll put some binaural beats on, and I'll get into the flow and I'll just start writing. Or I also have been experimenting with, speaking into my voice memo and then transcribing that. And
that's
then,
really cool.
Using that for like blogs and things like that, where it's a longer form and it just comes out. And then, obviously cleaning it up, copywriting in terms of like cleaning up the copy. So it's, in the correct way, but it really gets out the ideas and, those things where you're kind of like, how did that come out of my, mouth? I didn't know I had that inside of me, where that wouldn't come out in my writing.
Yeah.
It comes out.
That's a great idea.
Authority. Yeah.
That's a great idea. And I guess because we're on this topic, what are some ways that you help your clients align with human design in their business? Is there something that's like very common that people come to you for?
Yeah, I guess I do get a lot of generator clients and projector clients, I'd say, generator, manifesting generator, projectors. And I guess I work with them in quite different ways. So it just depends on if quite often people will come to me for initial reading if they haven't had one, then they'll have a business reading, and then they'll move on to coaching. So it's sort of like this flow where I do have a lot of repeat customers in that way. So it's a lot about illuminating first. I feel like I guess my genius zone, I feel like maybe the 63, the gate 63 and the incarnation cross, it's really helping people with, seeing, it's that possibility thinking and really able to see people's true potential. And it sort of really resonates. And afterwards, I'm finding like people, after I've, pinpointed these parts of their chart that make them unique, that really are activating for them, they're able to really take those things and go ahead and create the offers and create this business really with a lot of the things that I'm giving them. And a lot of it's intuitive in the moment as well. But yeah, it's that sort of guiding energy. So it's really leaning into me being that guide, and into the intuitiveness of it a lot of the time is really resonating with people. So I feel like that's one of my gifts, is really tapping into their true potential. But in saying that, I'm also able to really pinpoint where their potential conditioning lies as well. So a lot of the work I do, particularly with the coaching, is the long-term coaching is really understanding their chart inside and out, and then able to give them, in the voice coaching, like when we do Voxer, is able to really tap into, where they're getting limiting beliefs, and they might be going to launch something that's quite big or different that they've ever launched, because they've really tapped into their design, but it's new. And it's really like, you might be feeling this because this certain aspect of your chart, because of the fear gates, because of your open heart center, there's all these different areas that you can sort of see. Or even if they've got splits in their definition, you can kind of see where their hanging gates are and where their potential areas that might be holding them back. So it's about bringing attention to those, but in a really empowering way. So it's like, this is something that might be repeating for you in your life in terms of where, and even in my experiences, because I have a lot of openness in my chart, a lot of potential for conditioning. So there's many ways that I've had to work through these shadow expressions, so now I'm aware of them. But my biggest abundance blockers, I would say, is the shadow of gate 63, which is doubt and intense self-doubt. And also the gate 23, which is in my unconscious Jupiter. And that's the complexity. So when I overcomplicate things and when I doubt myself, I'm blocking my abundance.
Yeah.
So it's really about helping others find the areas where they're blocking certain aspects so they're able to really flourish and be confident. And yeah, so it's a lot of it is their human design, but then, you know, through the lens of business, and then creating, you know, the strategies, it's creating the business model that's sustainable. And yeah, so it's looking at a lot of different aspects of their chart, and it just, it lights me up as well, because it's just so fascinating. So I guess that's that 1-3 projector with the incarnation cross of consciousness, like you do. So,
I know. It's so layered. Like there's so many ways that you can use human design in your business. And, you know, when someone asks like, how do you use human design in your business? It's like, literally you can use, I mean, to the extent that you want, obviously most important being strategy and authority. Right. But there's so many different like ways we can, take different aspects of it and either you know, and I like what you said around illumination. Sometimes it's just illuminating different parts of your chart, whether it's the shadows, whether it's the certain gifts. And that is what gives you the awareness that you need to either validate what you already view to be true for you, or where you were planning on leaning in towards, and also using it as that awareness tool in terms of shadows so that you can not let that thing hold you back, or, you know, do certain things to work on those shadows so that they're not limiting you in that way. They're not blocking your abundance in certain ways. Like you said, the self-doubt, and what was the, I think you said gate 23, right? Assimilation, complexity, and gene keys, right? So it's such a game-changing tool. And you also talked about being a 1-3. So share with me a little bit around how you see this 1-3 side of you showing up in your business. I love profile. I love talking about profile. And yeah, I feel like that's one of the areas for me that I resonated the most with. I see coming up in my business all the time. So I'd love to hear from you and see if we have like some shared similar, I feel like it is, experiences here.
This is what I feel like I could talk a lot about, but I really resonated with the line 1, the conscious line 1, in terms of, you know, diving deep into investigating. I mean, I studied journalism as well. I've studied a lot of things, and I've dived deep, health science and naturopathy. So I've been someone that loves study, loves diving deep, doesn't like any gaps in my awareness. So I'm the type of person that had always like studied till late at night and, you know, just wanted to be the best student, get the best grades, you know, all that sort of stuff. Probably put a lot of pressure on myself. I feel like it's also linked to perfectionism in some ways, the line 1. It's not something that I've been taught, but it just feels like that. And also the gate 48 that I have as well, like all of that kind of, I don't know about you, but they kind of like, I don't know, all link somehow, like the depth and going to the well of knowledge and study. So I really feel like in my business, that's where I was like going from course to course and just, I'm not going to launch this program because I just need to know a little bit more. I'm going to take one more course. I'm going to do one more, you know, certification. Being a line 1, I have to prove, you know, my worth and all that, and the open heart. So there's a lot of areas there. The line 3, maybe in my nature, in terms of like the freedom loving, you know, adventure side of my travel and all that. Yes. But when it came to work, no, I didn't relate to that, because I wouldn't allow myself to fail. So I wouldn't actually go for the things that were maybe, you know, maybe my true potential. I would hold myself back because I didn't want to fail. So that trial and error, failing kind of thing felt, oh no, that's not me. So that took a little while. So then once I leaned into that in business and really leaned into that line 3, and started doing things before I was ready. Probably the first example is I went through the course, the quickest I've ever been through a course, your program. I often, you know, maybe wouldn't finish some programs because it just didn't, you know, but your course was beautifully laid out, very logical. I guess the 63 in me, that kind of like logic side, it really appealed to that, and the practical nature. Even though I've got all of this, like, I don't know, openness in the chart and a lot of intuitiveness and things like that, I'm a very logical person. I've got a logical circuitry like you. So things have to make sense. So it really made sense. And I went through that quickly. And I did this thing, which I never thought I would have done, is I actually, before I'd even become certified, I started doing, you know, HD 101 masterclasses. I started getting clients before I'd even finished, because I felt like I knew so much and I studied so much that I was able to do that. And nothing's ever felt so aligned in doing human design for me. So I was doing things before I was ready. And the thought of doing a masterclass before was, quite scary, but then to do it in something that I was so passionate about, it just opened up things for me. And then, now the more I lean into that line 3 of like experimenting with things, the more I get invitations, the more, the signature theme of success comes up for me, the more money comes in. It's just amazing how that line 3's opened up. And I notice sometimes when I go a bit too heavy into the studying again, and I don't show up as much, and I'm not, in that trial and error kind of process of experimenting with things, that's when sometimes it becomes a little bit blocked again. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm not really leading into that energy anymore. And then I do it again and I experiment more, and then it all happens again for me. So it's really fascinating. So I don't know if this resonates with how but
absolutely. Like, I mean, and I feel like, especially as a line 3, entrepreneurship in itself is a playground for us, in a sense. It's scary, especially, what you said, sometimes we can hide behind the books, and sometimes we can stop ourselves from doing those experiments. And I think one thing that really helped me in understanding my line 3 is I stopped overthinking things so much. And of course, also being a splenic projector, I think that's another thing, and just authority in general. But when it came to, let's say, certain decisions in my business, rather than become so fixated on trying to do the right thing or trying to do like the best, thing in my business, it was just trying out whatever that first thing that came up was. And if I didn't like it, then I would give myself that space and that compassion to switch it, right? To change it, to be okay with not having to commit to one thing and one thing only. It really helped me, again, like, I'm just trying to think of an example, but actually before I started my YouTube channel, I had a podcast. I don't know if you ever came across that or if you ever remembered that, but
I didn't, but something popped up the other day. I don't know where it popped up, but it had a similar title. It's something to do with magnetic, was it? Or, I don't know.
Magnetic self it was. I think it was. It's been a long time.
It's so funny because there's been a few things, even my blueprints, I got the
we had the same
framework from Creative, whatever it was, that place where you get all the templates, and then you'd seen mine and was like, that was where I started. My templates were the same ones. We're kind of like, linked in that way, that we maybe aesthetically go for the same sort of things. And
we have so many parallels, me and Nicole, like from our journeys to being in the business world to being in the online, I guess, business and coaching world as well. And also, I guess, moving from like one place to another and having partners that are from different places that we grew up in. But so many parallels. And where was I going with that? Oh yeah. So just like in terms of experimenting, definitely, like, everything I feel is an experiment. And it's like, I think the one thing that is for certain in my business is that nothing is for certain. And so I'm always just kind of like going in and out of things, but I've gotten so much validation from the experiments that I've done. And so it makes me feel more confident in what I'm doing versus what other people are telling me to do, because like I hear all the time, like, oh, you should do this, or like, you should maybe hop on that platform. And, for me, I'm like, I never really felt that pull to go on that thing. And then, like, lo and behold, 2 years later, that thing has fizzled out and I'm still like content in what it is that I'm doing.
Clubhouse, maybe.
There was that's exactly, I think that was exactly it. I never got onto Clubhouse. I got an invitation for it, signed up, but I never really got into it. So I'm like, what happened there? But like, sometimes you just have to trust yourself, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's not like with one of the trends. Right. And I think that's one of the things that human design, really helped me with, just that confidence. And so my question for you is like, what's the biggest gift that human design has given you, in, I guess, in your life, in the way that you run your business?
There's so many ways I could answer this. One thing I think is, as a projector, one thing that I always felt was I never really understood myself, because I guess now knowing that my aura is so focused on the other, so I can really see others, potential, their gifts and strengths, but I wasn't really able to articulate with confidence what mine were. So I liken this almost to, if I were to go on a traditional job interview now, I feel like I'd nail it because I know all of my gifts and strengths so well. Even in thinking about, I hadn't even brought attention to it, but understanding that I have a lot of leadership gates in my chart as a self-projected projector. I never really thought of myself as the traditional leader in some ways, which I guess I'm not, but every job I've ever been in, I am able to really see what maybe systems need changing or things that could be done better, and I'm outspoken in that because I see things in that kind of way. And I realize now, I was always promoted within the first couple of months of every job I've been into the management role, into the leadership role, into the guiding or the mentoring role. And it was like, when I reflected on that, I was like, oh my gosh, I hadn't actually realized that. I've never applied for, that leadership role, but I'd always get put into that position of leadership. So that's sort of an interesting thing, is like really now understanding those gifts and strengths that I have with confidence, with clarity. And I guess shining, the projector is often known as the lighthouse, and we shine a light for others, but it's also, I feel like it's shining that light on yourself so you can recognize your own gifts and strengths. And our strategy is to recognize and then wait for the invitation. If you don't recognize yourself first, then, you're not going to be in your most empowered place. You're not going to be confident and magnetic, and then people aren't going to see you and invite you. So it was really this going hand in hand. So I feel like that's a big piece, but there's so many things. Like my authority is another big thing. And really, I would always outsource my decision-making to others. I'd always ask everyone for their opinions. I'd always be writing the pros and cons list, never fully trusting in what I wanted. And obviously, making decisions that weren't always correct for me in the process. Understanding my self-projector projector authority now, really having soundboards, communicating to my husband, to when I need a soundboard, I need to speak out loud till my truth becomes clear, not coming up with all of the suggestions about ways that I could do things differently or their opinions. It's really about me speaking out loud and soundboarding, and my truth comes out through that, or through just, talking into a voice memo. I can audibly hear when I start talking. It's in my mind, it's in my head, it's all this like mental chatter. And then my voice audibly changes when it's my true tone, when it's coming from my G center. So that's really interesting. And I can really feel, like you illuminated, it's that feeling of a flower opening up in that chest space. So it's like this warmth comes through when it's aligned for me. So I'm able to really make decisions for me now, not for others. And with a lot more self-trust. And that's a big thing that I help others do as well.
That's huge. Like I think that's really one of the biggest gifts you can give someone or, receive. And that is learning to trust yourself and learning to take back your own power and making your own decisions, and really, I'm going to say, like, creating or co-creating your life, and trusting that what's best for you, because not a lot of us are taught that. And, we're not taught to trust ourselves. We're not taught to feel into our decisions. And so human design is just incredible with that. It gives you the, especially as a coach, as a mentor, it gives you the tools that you need, the language that you need to teach someone else how to do the same, right? For the rest of their life outside of business as well. And that is game changing. It's life changing, right? And, I know we have a lot of projector entrepreneurs that watch this channel as well. And so what final words of advice or wisdom do you have for other projector entrepreneurs out there that are operating in this generator living world that we live in?
So I think it comes down to really recognizing that you don't have to keep up with everyone else, that it's okay sometimes to slow down, to speed up, and that your worth isn't based on your output. And I think that's a lot of society is really around, working a certain amount of hours, and it's all to do with output, when we're more designed for our guiding and our leading systems and leading people, and really stepping into that with power, with confidence, and really recognizing your own gifts and strengths is so important. Because if you're just trying to keep up with others and trying to initiate and trying to respond, when that's what, we're conditioned to do in life, because that's the systems and structures are in society are really built around leaning into those energies more than the projector energy. So really, and also maintaining your energy in terms of, like, as I mentioned, the self-care and things like that, but also really maintaining your energy in terms of, not just giving everyone advice, like that unsolicited advice all the time, because we see things that could be done more efficiently, or want to give our perspective because we know that they can truly help someone. But if someone on the other side isn't ready to hear that, it's met with resistance, which leads to bitterness. So it's about conserving your energy, waiting for, even if it's non-verbal cues, for someone, if you start talking about things and they lean in, that they're ready for your energy, or even just simply by saying, would you like my perspective on that? I feel like I could share some insights with you, just so they're able to, say yes or no. And then it's actually sometimes met with such affirmation for the person on the other end, if they're ready for it. If they're ready to hear that, it sort of really helps them to see themselves in another way, or to have this new perspective on things. But if you just, give this unsolicited advice all the time, it's not, it can be really that people aren't ready for that yet. So there's many different ways, but there are a couple of things that come to mind.
Beautiful. Basically save your energy for for when it matters,
for people
the most,
who
right?
can't wait to
exactly, for those that are ready to receive it. And so I guess for anyone that is interested in everything that you've just spoken about in using human design in their business, is there anything that you're offering right now that you'd like to share with us?
Well, there's a few things, but one of the things that just came to mind is that I don't know when you're airing this, but I'm doing a free workshop coming up on, I think it's the 9th of May, and it's the wisdom within. And it's really illuminating, how to really trust yourself again, how to not outsource your decision-making to others, and to really diving deep into the authorities in human design. I feel like that's the biggest gift that you can have. And it's not just about business. Yes, it will definitely help you to know what opportunities are meant for you or not. But in life, it's game changing. And even if you're able to bring awareness to your partner or children's authorities, that's going to be, a beautiful thing for your harmony in your family and things like that. So I'm doing a free workshop on that. And I do readings. I do a bunch of different readings, from the foundational to the advanced to business readings, and then also coaching through the lens of human design. So business coaching, mentoring through that lens. And I'm doing more of a one-to-many program coming up called Awaken Your True Potential. So that's coming up soon. And I feel like I was actually reading, I just want to read this little snippet from our incarnation cross, because we share the same incarnation cross. And I feel like this resonates for both of us. It just sort of, just this line. So it's through awakening your own consciousness, you pass the flame to those who are tuned to you, so they discover the way to awaken theirs. So I feel like that's, something that we both do in our work.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's true. It's through our, it's through our own transformation. It's through our own journey that we're able to, again, help other people, through our own embodiment, that we're able to, what you said, pass on the flame. And I think that's a beautiful way to put it. No, it is. It really is like a journey. And especially with human design, it's all that experiment. And the more that we can lean into it, and be the example ourselves, the better it'll be for everyone else around us, right?
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to create like a one-to-many program in this, because I feel like so many people, particularly it can often be, new mums, and that point of, they don't necessarily want to do the work that they were doing before. They want freedom and flexibility, but what now? Like, what are my gifts? What are my strengths? Where's my direction, in life? So I really want to help, not just mums, but everyone to be able to really illuminate that. And a lot of it, there will be shadow work in that as well, but it's really about, stepping into your true potential in life, when a lot of the time comes, sometimes we're coasting, sometimes we're not really being everything that we could be and everything that we want to be, based on our fears or based on certain limiting beliefs. So I feel like that's important work.
That all of this sounds so exciting. So I'm going to leave all of Nicole's information in the description down for you. And even if the timing for the workshop doesn't work out, I'm sure Nicole offers a ton of other stuff to come.
Yes.
She's just a wealth of wisdom, of knowledge, true 1-3 style, lots of experiences that she's shared with us today. And also she does have a podcast. Actually, could you let us know a bit about your podcast and how they can find that?
It's called Magnetic by Design, a human design podcast. So you can find it on most of the platforms where you'd find, and it's really about, all different things to do with human design. And then I bring on people. A lot of people I've actually brought on so far have been clients of mine, where we sort of really dive into their design and how human designs really help them in their businesses and in their life. And it's very much going wherever the conversation goes, we kind of go. And I feel like there's lots of nuggets of wisdom, and a lot of people are really resonating with, the stories of, someone that might have the same chart as them, very similar, profile and type. So they're messaging me sort of saying they really resonated with, that feeling of whatever they're going through at the time. So I'm loving that. And I think that's really aligned with my self-projected authority, and having the only 2 centers defined, but that's the G center and the throat center. So that I kind of feel like it's really great for
definitely
speaking out loud and speaking my truth.
Oh, for sure. And I guess to wrap up this chat for today, what is your favorite quote or mantra that you'd like to share with us?
One that I like. I don't know if I'm going to say it correctly, but it's sort of based on the feeling of whether you think you can or you think you can't, it's true. So it's very much on your mindset. If you don't believe that you can do something, you're not actually going to do it. But if there's that belief, if you know that success is inevitable, then it will be. So it's just that mind shift in thinking and belief, self-belief.
Yes. Oh, I love that one too. It's like simple, but for me, so true. Right. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on today, sharing your energy. I know it's a holiday for you in Australia. So thank you so much for being here, and can't wait to have you on again soon.